Kia ora, Lara here, and today I am creating a layout with you for week 2 of the 52 favourite photos. So check the rest of the playlist for ideas and what others are doing with this. The idea is that you take a photo each week, a favourite photo, or choose a photo that you're just going to scrapbook or document, and there'll be others shared in the playlist. I've chosen a photo of me holding a cup of coffee. Now, I like a good cup of coffee, but the beauty of this photo is that it's down on the beach. So when we stay at mum and dad's beach house, when it's sort of the right timing, we make a nice espresso, and if it's there, then wander down on the beach with it. So this was an early-ish morning beach walk, and hence the nice warm cup of coffee and sort of the sleeves pulled down. It certainly wasn't a nice hot sunny afternoon or anything like that. So what I have pulled out here is, you saw at the start I grabbed a card. Now the card that I was showing you was one that I made for a swap with the Star Crafters team, and it was using the heart-shaped dies and stamp set that is part of Celebration. And I love the card, and I thought, hang on, can I use this concept in a layout? So I have grabbed some pool party cardstock, and to start with I was going to use the two-toned 12 by 12, and then I thought actually I might as well grab an A4 sheet. It's a little bit more economical, of like economy of use kind of, because I'm going to be chopping into it for my 6 by 8 album. So what I did after sort of chopping that paper out, that cardstock out, is that I sort of framed my photo just by putting it onto some white willow cardstock, and now I'm going to pull out the heart stamp that's part of that set that you can earn free. So it's not available to buy, but you spend a certain amount and then you qualify to access it, and it is sort of the more expensive of the amounts. So I'm just using the pool party ink, and I've stamped sort of semi-randomly, to try and fill in some gaps with pool party on some pool party cardstock. And now I'm just using a blender brush to sort of rub some of the ink around the edges, just sort of to bring your eye into the middle, so it'll be lighter in the center and slightly darker out near the edges. Now this isn't a precise science, it's not super neat and tidy. You'll see some areas are darker than others. Once the ink kind of dries, like it at the moment it looks really sort of strong and bold, but as it dries it becomes more subtle and sinks into sort of the colours of the cardstock, and I actually really love that effect. That was part of why I wanted to do that on the layout as well as I did on the card. So there, that's sort of nicely inked up around the edges. Just close up that ink pad, and so now I've got that back, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of some white splatters onto it. So I'm just using the white Stampin' pigment ink, and all I've done is I'm sort of squeezing that onto my little mat here, and then I'm using a water brush to add more water to it, and then I'm just going to tap it on my finger to splatter it onto the page. So just by tapping on my finger, I'm able to spread that out and just keep scooping a little bit more water in, and then sort of landing it on the page. You sort of move the card out of the way there. These splatters tend to go everywhere, and this desk does have the remnants of quite a few splatters. So this pigment ink, it just adds a really nice softness to it in that background, and by adding more water it gives it a more see-through, slightly more transparent look. So I'm using a couple of the dies here. One of them that is pulling out, you can see that heart-shaped thin cut as well, and you may have seen me using that on some other cards and projects because it is one of my favorites from the Celebration, and it just can add to so many different things. I've pulled in the hearts here because I do love my cup of coffee. And I also love that this goes through my smaller Stampin' Emboss machine, so I don't actually even have to leave my table. You may also have seen the hexagon shaped die that I had there as well, and that's from part of the Meant to Be collection. So at the start you saw me looking through a whole lot of papers and the different cardstock colours, and those are from a gorgeous collection that is it is a scrapbooking collection, and I'm just looking on the bag to try and tell you the correct name for it. because the dies themselves are meant to be, but the paper is called Cute As Can Be. And this comes with 12 double-sided sheets of paper, 2 of each design. So you're getting 6. You've got, I'll have to check that. You've got some gorgeous papers, and I pulled out a few of them that I really like, and I have popped them at the start. So I've gone through and I've die cut the white heart with that heart shape, and I've pulled the florals from the meant to be die set as well as the one floral that's part of that heart set. And I've done that because I felt like I just want to be able to dot a few of those flowers around, and as I was cutting the white, I thought I'd cut a few more on the bottom of that as well to make use of time and what was on the cutting plate. I also went out and cut one of the hearts with Pool Party as well. So now I'm just sort of getting ready to use some of these other gorgeous Cute As Can Be papers. So here's one with the hearts. There's some gorgeous florals, like Petunia Pop, I think it's called, floral, and it has got little white daisies on that Petunia Pop colour. And then there's another one that's sort of a florally kind of one with the Pool Party Petunia Pop and Pretty in Pink, I think. Yes, Pretty in Pink was the other colour as well, tucked in there. So I'm just again popping that wee hexagon that's part of the meant to be dies through, and I'll do that for each of those pieces of patterned paper. This thin cut creates both the hexagon shape, and it also does an outline part of it as well. So you've kind of got a 2-for-1 kind of deal with each of these. So I'm just sort of placing them around on this layout, trying to work out what will work, what won't. Being a 6x8 size, it does mean having a little bit more of a bit more playing. I've got less space, and so I need to make the most of what I've got, but I also like a little bit of white space, so I don't want it completely overcrowded. So up the top there, I popped that little white base with the florals on it and the little love hearts, and then there's the Pretty in Pink with Petunia Pop hearts, and down the bottom that daisy with Petunia Pop. So I'm just popping some of these flowers out of the way, thinking about what that might look like, where I might place them. So you'll see me popping things in different places throughout a layout, trying to work out what will work and what won't, and what's going to look right. And at this stage, it's when I think, actually, I've got these other shapes and I need something else brought in here. Just the 3 doesn't quite work. So here comes the outlines, and I'm just going to spread them out a little bit so that they hang off the page, a little bit like the one that you can see up the top left there is already. So just sort of popping them on, and most stuff goes in 3s, so sort of looking at it and thinking that I need another of the hearts. So I've sort of already got a white one and a Pool Party one, and I need to bring a little bit of that pink that's become quite prominent on the page just to add some more balance. So I've pulled out the back of one of the papers I've already cut recently. I think it's the floral one, and it's got this gorgeous pink pinstripe pattern. So I'm going to just cut that through, and I cut it slightly on an angle so that the little pieces don't look like they're completely lined up or anything like that. And I'm just adding that as an extra layer with my group of 3 die cut heart-shaped hearts. So there we have that sitting there. I'm liking how this is coming together. It's sort of got a flow through, starts at the bottom and goes up in an angle, and with that white, and I'm going to add a wee cluster of the daisies and things. It adds another wee balance into it as well with that visual triangle. So I'm using here the fine tip glue pen to add those thin ones, and then I'm just going to use the tape runner to do the bigger ones. They don't need that precision edging. And so I started with that top one, which I will trim the bits off a little bit later, and then I'm lining up the other hexagons sort of to fit so that they sort of slot near each other, I guess would be the right words to say. And I love this shape because it fits together so beautifully. So it's nice to have some lovely hexagon shapes to play around with. So adding them, the one down the bottom, and then tucking the other sort of more open ones around it to line them all up. Again, the fine tip glue for the smaller pieces. that one's going to go completely on, so I'm pretty much sticking it all the way around. And I'll just trim off the little pieces a little bit later with some scissors. So now it is time to think about that photograph and how that's going to be matted. And I'm actually going to pull out some of the, I'm not sure which green it exactly is. I think it might be, or it's either Mossy Meadow or Old Olive, and I think this one is Old Olive. So this one's sort of got, it's got swirls on it. I think it's meant to be like the bee trails, but it also fits with kind of like the steamy bits from coffee, but not, you can actually see that once it is framing that photograph. So I've got that there. It does still feel like something else is missing, so I am going to play around with some of these pinks, and I think I will use the Petunia Pop, and I'm going to use the light side of this two-tone cardstock and just sticking that down and then using the trimmer to cut around it. Sometimes I would use scissors, but the trimmer's right here and handy, so it's working all right to do it this way. It allows me to line it up and make sure the border is reasonably similar all the way around instead of the roughness, but I am going to crinkle that up so that it won't really matter anyway. I'm just going to trim off the edges of the overhanging shapes, and I was going to just throw them out, but then I thought, oh, I'll tuck those slightly bigger ones, leave them there. They may come in handy for another project or something a little bit later. So now this photo is looking pretty good. I'm happy with where that's all coming out, so I'm just going to stick that down. I did wonder about using 3D foam tape, but I think 52 layouts in this little album at the end of the year, it might be a bit squishy, so I'll try and keep it as flat as possible without that bulk lifting that all up. So now I'm sort of arranging things, thinking of, as I'm putting them together, thinking about where the title might go. Now these hearts, when I stick them down again, I am using the fine tip glue pen. I could have run it through, and I'll do this with the title a little bit later, through with the adhesive sheets, and then it would be self-adhesive already, which is always quite nice. So I'm just popping the ink pad on there to weight that down. Because I've put the fine tip glue on, I just want to make sure it's got connection with the papers and the photos and things underneath it. They're not 100% even, so it did need that little bit of pressure. So I'm doing that with each of these little hearts, and then adding a little bit of weight there while I work on some other bits. So I put down the pink heart first, followed by the pool party, and followed by the white, and then pool party last was my sort of stack that I popped on there. So now just sort of thinking about where I'm going to pop each of these flowers. I decided I'd put one of them with the heart shape, and I'm putting sort of two other wee clusters of the daisies and the flowers around at other points. So there's one up the top, and there's one sort of middle left would be the best way to describe those little clusters. And I'm just using the green Tombow to get these stuck down. It seems to work quite well. So that's all nicely weighted with those hearts, and I can add the extra little floral in there with them as well, and tuck them down the left. So just love the little subtle touch that these flowers give. They are going to be quite a handy die cut to have. And I have noticed that there is some cool speech bubbles, and I'm not sure which size I'm going to use, so I'm going to just cut out both of them. And these are from the Meant to Be dies again. Not sure if I'll use 1 or 2 or even 3, but I'll just start with just cutting these 2 out and popping them aside. And since I was in there, I'm just going to cut out some little hearts as well. So there's only one of these. It's one of those little tiny dies that would be quite good if you had a few of them, a little bit like the flowers. There was 2 of each size, but there's always lots of use for little hearts on a page. So I'm going to cut out 3 of those, and I've cut them out using some different patterned papers from that same bee collection that I am using with these gorgeous colours in them. So I now need to be thinking about adding a title and my journaling. So I've got that journaling bubble sort of created there already. So I'm actually going to grab some ink and I'm going to do some ink blending around it again, like I did on the edge of the actual layout. I'm going to blend around the edge of that little speech bubble, just with the pool party ink again. So it's not super obvious, it's just sort of tonally, I don't know, it just adds a nice depth to the different elements on the page. So now it is time to get that written on and then get that stuck down. The journaling basically says espresso and a beach walk, perfect. Was even more special to walk with Jace and my parents after Jace's hip replacement. So he's been quite uncomfortable for quite a while, and with his right hip, he broke it a couple of years ago and the repair sort of hasn't done what it needed to do, and he's been in pain. So the last beach walk he did was one where he just couldn't keep going, he had to go back, and so it was really nice just to be able to go for a wander along the beach early in the morning and not for him to not be in pain and to actually enjoy being out there and enjoy walking. So he was about 3-4 weeks post surgery at the time of this walk, and I think it's been really freeing. He didn't realize how much pain he was in, so that's sort of why another reason why I've chosen this photo. Sort of a few favorite things, and for him to be able to go walking pain-free is pretty cool. So you'll see here that I have grabbed the pastel ombre glimmer paper, which goes sort of darker from one edge to lighter on the other, and I have used some of the adhesive sheets in behind it so that my letters can come off already self-adhesive, so I'm not having to do all the individual gluing. So going to add the title up there, and it is Beach Walk. So I won't make you watch me stick all of these down. So handy having fingernails at the moment to pull those off. I do sometimes bring in my handy dandy little tool, however not quite. Now these sequins are rather gorgeous. They are purple adhesive backed sequins. Again, they're another item that you can only get through Celebration. But there is 4 different kind of pinky purple colours, and I just thought they would look beautiful finishing off this page. So I'm just dotting them around at various points, flower centers, and then a few white ones sort of loose around the page as well. And here's a couple of close-ups. I hope you've enjoyed sort of seeing how I've taken this photo and also taken that card inspiration to turn it into a bit of a layout. So check the other 52 favorites week 2 in the playlist, and thanks heaps for watching. Bye.